Hello there, everybody. It's Sue here, Sue Crooks, the founder of Love Biz Networking. We have a very, very special workshop, a development workshop for Love Biz members today. So thank you for watching on replay, and thank you to our members here today watching Helen live. So our expert today is Helen Leathers. She's a women's empowerment coach, and our workshop today is time and energy management for busy women. I'm a busy woman. I need some help with my time and energy. So Helen, welcome. Would you like to share with us a little bit about yourself and also then make a start on our workshop today? Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to see you all. I'm Helen. I'm based in Warwickshire. And I've been coaching for about 7 years. I've been training and facilitating workshops for about 25, something like that, years. And this is a really interesting workshop because people talk about time, but actually a lot of it is about energy. And for women in particular, it's tricky. There are lots of things going on that influence how we manage our time and energy, and both are super important. So yes, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer. I train coaches and I assess coaches for the Association for Coaching and their accreditation process. And I love what I do. I love what I do, but I love helping women find something that works for them and just allowing them to have that light bulb moment that's going to, even if it's something small, it's going to change how they work and potentially change how they are in their life and how they show up in their life. Because we're super amazing and powerful as women, and we need to be able to use that and step into that and make the difference in our world or in the world at large that we were meant to make. So you've already, just before we started recording, people sort of mentioned why they were drawn to this workshop, and you've already touched on many of the things that typically people talk about. And in a longer workshop, I usually do a bit of a brainstorming session about what is it that you are most challenged by in terms of time. And you've already mentioned some of those things, that you've perhaps got too much to do, so you don't know where to start. But also there's someone mentioned the idea of, I've got it in the diary, I've planned it in the diary, I know to do that, but then I don't always do it. I don't necessarily hold myself accountable. So there's a bit of procrastination in there. So we're going to talk a bit about that as well. Often some people say they're not very good at planning. Some people say they get interrupted all the time. So that's more about boundaries, which is a whole other topic. Some people have an inconsistent motivation. Some people just don't quite arrive where they need to be to start the thing that they want to start. And I would suggest that what Maxine mentioned earlier is possibly related to that. So we'll talk a bit about that, and hopefully you can see the link when we get to it. So so there's three main challenges that people have when it comes to time and energy. One is planning, two is energy, and three is the procrastination side of it, which is driven by many different things. So I want to share a quote with you. So I'm going to share it on the screen. There's a lovely quote here. Lack of direction, not lack of time, is the problem. We all have 24 hours in a day. Said a white middle-class businessman with a wife at home. So I think it is very different for men than it is for women, because there's so much more going on for women. As I'm going to make some general sweeping statements here. I appreciate it's not the same 100% of the time, but some general sweeping statements based on the experience that I've had in life, and also the people that I've worked with have had. So I remember going to a conference and someone spouting this quote, is we all have 24 hours in a day. And I remember having a conversation with a lady sat next to me who said, I wonder who ironed his shirts and who's looking after his children. And I bet he got up this morning and walked out the door in his iron shirts, got in the car and came here. And I had to do a whole lot more than that. So there's all of these other things going on in life, whether you have children or not. Women generally tend to be primary carers. We see a lot of women getting to a certain age and being that sandwich generation of having younger children or even not so young children who still need support, and you know, parents or other people in their family that might need assistance. So there's lots going on, and we also tend to take on a lot, don't we? I don't know, if a quick show of hands, who takes on stuff from other people, looking after other people? Oh yes, I'll do that. Yeah, we kind of tend to agree to do things. So I'm not sure that the real problem is a lack of direction. I think for most women, the real problem is they are trying to do too much. And because you've got too much to do, there's not enough time. But that's because all the too much to do is the stuff that you've convinced yourself, or perhaps other people have convinced yourself, need to be done. So there's quite a lot to unpack in that. We're going to go through. There are 3 key secrets, and I'm going to talk about being fruitful rather than being productive, because productive is a bit what I call yang energy. It's kind of like, get this out, get this out, get this out, get this out, like a production line. And I think what we're better at as women is being fruitful and then harvesting the rewards of that fruitfulness. So there's 3 key areas to this. Firstly, managing your own expectations. Secondly, managing other people's expectations. And thirdly, managing your energy. And I think managing your energy generally is key. And it's a whole other topic, but if you have low energy, if you haven't slept well, perhaps you have missed a meal, perhaps you've jumped from Zoom to Zoom and not had time for a cup of tea or a glass of water or a nip to the loo or something like that, your energy is depleted, your inner resources are low. What happens when our inner resources are low is that we very often find it much more difficult to set boundaries. So we'll say yes to things that we should have said no to. Oh, go on then, give it to me. I might as well, I've got everything else to do anyway. So when our resources are low, we tend to take on even more. Sometimes when we're super low, we might snap and throw it all up in the air and quit. But it often takes a lot to get to that point. So if we build up our energy resources, then we're much more able to manage our expectations, the expectations of others, and maintaining that energy. So we're going to talk about those 3 things as we go along. And I'd just like to draw your attention to another quote, which I prefer, to be honest. Bear with me. Which is by the wonderful Michelle Obama. And she's been known to have said, so you can have it all. No, not all at the same time. That's a lie. We can have what we want. We can have all the power that we want, but we can't always have everything at the same time. We lose focus on some things and so on. And I think it's important to know that we can't do everything at the same time. So some things need our attention over others. So we can't do absolutely everything that we think we need to do in the time frame that we think we should be doing it in. So the first thing that we need to do is, I think we need to get stuff out of our head, because we hold a lot of stuff in our head, and it's that invisible stuff, isn't it, that other people don't see or think to do. We hold it all. And so one of the big things, that if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, if you're starting to feel like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do all of this, my first suggestion is put it all on paper. Write it all down, get a big flip chart piece of paper, throw it all down there. And then we need to learn to prioritize. So this feeds into a bit of time management, but also managing our own expectations. When we see it all down on paper, we kind of go, Yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to do all that. It also so it gives us a bit of a reality check, but it also allows us to free up some brain space, and that can feel quite relieving. Oh, okay, bit of clarity here. So getting it all down on paper, and then we need to learn to prioritize. Now I've got a bit of a priority matrix. You may have seen it before. Let me make sure I'm on the right page. You thought I'd have known where the share button is by now, wouldn't you? I'm pretty bad at finding the share button. Okay, so this is a priority matrix. If you've seen it before, you will know that if you get a big sheet of paper and put a line down the middle and then a line across the middle, oh, I didn't want to do that. This column here is the urgent stuff. This column here is the not urgent stuff. This row is the important stuff, and this row is the not important stuff. So we get this mixture of urgent and important, not urgent, but important, urgent, not important, not urgent, and not important. So let's go through this. We have, usually when things are urgent and important, we're in firefighting mode. We're rushing, we're juggling, we're, oh, got to get all this done. When things are not urgent but important, these are the things we tend to ignore and put to one side because we're firefighting or reacting to other people. But this is usually in business where the money is. Personally, it's where the re-energizing is, it's where the joy is, it's where we fill ourselves up. So as women, we tend to avoid it because we've got everybody else to look after. This is where we need to spend more of our time. Down here in urgent and not important are often other people, interruptions, and we need to learn to manage those. And then in the not urgent and not important, that's busy work, the stuff we find to do, the scrolling, the things that we get distracted by that are more about us. Now, if we spend a lot of time doing this stuff, especially scrolling, don't beat yourself up about it. Make sure you're acknowledging it and then go, why am I doing this? And we'll talk a bit more about why you might be doing it later, but there will be a reason. Okay, so we'll come back to that later. It's a good observation to make, and it's a good element to contemplate. Now, this is the traditional time management matrix in this urgent, important kind of categories. So they're a good start, but I've got a better one. If you get a big square piece of paper and put a line down the middle both ways, so you've got a square like the, a matrix like this, and label them A, B, C, and D. And you take your big list of everything that you've just downloaded from your brain and you plot it into this. We have A, top left. Traditionally, that's urgent and important firefighting. I call this absolutely has to be done today. If it absolutely has to be done today, it goes in this box. You still might find you get a lot. Now, what I found from doing this exercise on a regular basis, and when you're really super busy doing it daily, or even sometimes in the morning and in the afternoon, if you absolutely have to do it daily, you'll start to move things out of the A box in time. And then you'll start to be able to focus on the B box, which is be nice to do this today, be nice to go. And the other way I can look at it is bloody lovely to do today. And that could be a walk in the park or a yoga class, but it equally could be, working on your marketing strategy or writing that proposal. So think about the B box still as where the money is, if you like, where the energy is. C is could be done tomorrow or another day or by someone else. Could be. Okay, see what we're doing here. We're using the letters. And then our D box is ditch it if you can. It is doom scrolling. It is delegation, deletion, and the stuff that really you don't need to do. Sometimes what can happen is you can have something that you really enjoy doing, and it's quite pointless, but it can help you to change state. And again, we'll come back to it later. So I have, if you enjoy doing something like Wordle, Wordle's great because it's like a one-off thing that you do on a daily basis and you only do it once. But I've got a little online quiz, online game that I like to play, not Candy Crush or anything like that, but solitaire, right? And what I do is when I've finished one job and I'm about to start another, I have a little game of solitaire. Shifts my energy and it's a little reward. And that would be in the D box. Doesn't need to be done, could be ditched, but actually it's quite nice. So we can plot things into these boxes. Now, a friend of mine said the other day, I've written a list of everything I have to do today, and there's no way it's all going to be done. But that's a really terrible place to start from, isn't it? Because you're already overwhelmed. So the trick, once you've got everything into these boxes, is to take the list in box A and prioritize it within that box. So you number it 1 to hopefully not more than 10. If it absolutely has to be done today, you number it. And then that gives you an order in which to do things. Now, what I've realized is that a lot of women don't struggle with this box. They know how to prioritize the absolutely has to be done today. They usually put more in there than needs to be because they can actually delegate some of it. I know that's a swear word for some people, but you can. But what they're not so good at is moving on to box B, which is the nourishing, the money, the energy stuff that really needs to be done. It's important in your business, it's important in your life, but because it's not urgent, you go, oh wow, that can wait. Go and do a yoga class, well, that can wait, it's not urgent. So we have to work at refocusing on our box B. So hopefully this is a useful tool for you to prioritize and think about things in a slightly different way. So remember, absolutely has to be done today, and then we can prioritize within that. Be nice to be done today, bloody lovely stuff that is going to nourish and sustain, and not just us, but our business, bring in the money for our business, if that's what you're working on. So that's the first kind of tool that I want to share with you. The other D is, do I have to? If you don't want to do it, think about why you said yes to it and maybe renegotiate on that. Okay. For some reason, my slides have gone weird. Okay, so that helps us to manage our own expectations. When you see all the stuff that you have to do, you can divide it up like that, and you can allocate some time to each one. When it comes to managing other people's expectations, that is a whole other workshop, because that's around boundaries and saying no and managing what you say to people. Yes, I can do that, but I can't do it until next Tuesday. You know, that kind of management of other people's expectations. Again, we know how to do that often. We don't always do it. However, when we come on to managing our energy and we learn to manage our energy well, we also then have inner resources which give us the energy to manage other people's expectations, because we feel a bit more whole in ourselves. We feel less exhausted. So let's talk about managing our energy. When I talk about managing our energy, it's like our internal energy. It is our physical resources. Like if you haven't eaten, it's really hard to go and exercise. If you haven't filled your car up, it's really hard to drive to Glasgow. Yeah. So think about that. In putting your needs first above all else is absolutely essential. But it's more than just our physical needs. There's our brain power. Have we got room in our brain? There is our emotional needs to think about. Do we need to talk some stuff through just to get it out of our system? How can we ask for some support around that? And replenishing your energy on a regular basis, that needs to be done daily, by the way. You know, we need to eat daily, we need to sleep daily, all of those things. I don't need to tell you that, but sometimes we need a reminder. And I have a little bit of a soapbox thing about this, where people go, and some of you might be thinking it, oh yes, because if I can't pour from an empty cup, I have to fill my cup up first so I can share that with other people. I believe this has been perpetuated as a way to say the only way you're allowed to look after you is if it's because you'll want to look after other people. I'm going to call BS on that, because it is not selfish. Like, since when is it selfish to want to eat, to want to sleep, to want to rest, to want to have time to yourself, and not selfish of someone else to make demands of you and ask you to disregard those basic needs? So I want you to really reframe that. This is not selfish. And replenishing your energy will give you the energy to do the things that not only you have to do, really have to do, but that you want to do, and that bring you joy and bring you fulfillment and change your world and the world of those around you, because we all have the power to do that in whatever way. Tip number 2, stop multitasking. Like, it is a myth. Okay, we cannot do it. And there's a really good exercise that I often use with coaching trainees, where we play someone giving a TED talk, and we make them watch or look at a page of information, and we ask them what they read, and we ask them what they heard, and they get confused, and some of them go, I didn't hear anything and I didn't read anything because it's too much information. We can't multitask. That's proven by science. I love a bit of research, and it's been proven. Now, what will often people get confused with is that women have much more peripheral vision. So I want to go to a really black and white, generic kind of sweeping generalization once more, and imagine that, you know, back in our evolutionary history, the men went off to hunt. And in order for the men to go off to hunt, they walk along side by side, and they're like this, looking for prey. And when they see what they need, they have to focus entirely on that thing that they're hunting. Very much hunting vision. You might have noticed this when men go to look in cupboards. What are the women of the tribe doing? They are probably gathering some herbs, fruits, nuts, that kind of thing, making sure they're not picking the poisonous ones. They've got a fire on the go. They're stopping the kids from falling in the river. All of those things, on the lookout, on the listen out for anything that's dangerous. Much wider, more peripheral vision. Do not confuse peripheral awareness with the ability to multitask. They're two different things. There's some research done a few years ago that said we get interrupted about every 7 minutes. And this was a few years ago, before lots of the new things like WhatsApp and that kind of thing. The same research showed that it took approximately 20 minutes for us to focus entirely on something that we need to do. So if we get interrupted every 7 minutes, how can we focus entirely on the thing that we're trying to do? So don't multitask, focus on one thing at a time, and give yourself at least 20 minutes without interruptions. So a huge thing around time management and your energy, because it's exhausting to switch from one thing to another, to another, to another. It takes up a lot of our brain power. So when we want to focus on something, give yourself at least 20 minutes, turn off all notifications. All notifications. Don't look at anything else. Turn off the music, turn off the WhatsApp, turn off your phone. I have my phone on silent, and I set a timer. And I said, I'm going to give myself 40 minutes for this. And I set a timer. Inevitably, depending on the job, I will get done what I need to do within that time. And then I don't move on to the next thing on my list. Oh no. I go and have a break, whether it's a cup of tea, a walk around the block, walk down to the river, something like that, because When we have that break, we reset our energy again. And this is managing our energy. Really, really important. So if we've got our A box, we've subdivided that and given numbers of order of what we're going to do those things in. That sentence was terrible English, I do apologise. We've numbered everything in the A box and given it priority. And then we've said we're going to start with one. We've done that, we've taken a break. If we get to the end of our A box, the end of absolutely has to be done today, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're thinking, I could move on to something else, you are allowed to stop. Just to let you know, you are allowed to stop, because everything that wasn't in the A box doesn't actually have to be done today. Because you've put it in the B box, right? So instead of just keeping on, take a break, come back to it tomorrow, reprioritize if you need to. A quick word on procrastination. Procrastination is the act of unnecessarily postponing decisions or actions. How do we get over that? Usually, start something, just start it, just give it 20 minutes. This is a little mantra that I have. If I can't focus on something, I'm like, oh, I'll just give it 20 minutes. I don't have to spend the whole day on it. And quite often that focus kicks in and we just get going with it. The other thing is to finish something. Instead of starting something new, think about, is there something you can just quickly finish off? Because the act of having a to-do list and ticking things off a to-do list releases dopamine, which is one of our feel-good hormones. So that can make us feel great. Start something, finish something. Just give it 20 minutes. But I want to talk about the other reason we procrastinate. Oftentimes we procrastinate because we're just not motivated by something. We just don't actually want to do it. So it might be that we need to reassess. What's going to make me want to do this? Or can I get someone else to do it for me? Because someone else might have better skills. So think about your strengths. One of my regular clients was talking about the fact that she always does the VAT return. And she said, it takes forever because I never know where anything is. I'm not good with numbers. And I always have to ask my husband to dig stuff out for me. And I said, what are your husband's strengths? She's like, oh, he's brilliant with numbers and he knows where everything is. I said, so how long do you think it would take him to do the VAT return? She's like, oh, he'd be done in no time. I said, okay. So how is it that you're doing it? She's like, well, I've always done it. So is there perhaps a conversation to be had there? Next time I saw her, he'd taken over doing the VAT return. She was doing all the HR stuff in their business and looking after the people, which was her thing. He was a numbers guy. She was a people's person. So, you know, play to your strengths. Sometimes we procrastinate because we're overwhelmed, and using that matrix will help you to get to what can I do now? Sometimes we procrastinate because we have abstract goals and we're not clear on actually what we're doing. And sometimes we procrastinate because we're easily distracted. So turning off all of those distractions will really help. Sometimes we procrastinate because we're doing something that's not in line with our values or our purpose or our feeling of fulfillment. So maybe that's something to have some thought about. And sometimes we procrastinate because we either don't have the energy or because we don't have the right energy. And that's very quickly what I want to touch on now. Because when we have the right energy, like we always have the energy for something, okay? Even when we're like, I'm just exhausted. If the right person calls you and says, do you want to come out for a coffee? You're there, right? You have the energy for something. We have the energy for analysing numbers in the right moment. We have the energy for talking to people. We have the energy for going inside and self-reflection. We have the energy for meditation. We have the energy to sleep. That's also really important. Resting is not a bad use of your time, by the way. In fact, it could be a really important use of your time. So we always have the energy for something. It's not always the thing we're faced with. So sometimes we need to look at, is this the best thing for me to do with the energy that I have right now? Or how can I get myself keyed up for this thing that I have to do? And That's what I want to talk to you about. So if we are procrastinating, do a bit of a reality check about why you think you might be procrastinating, and look at what options you have to move forward. And if you know you have to do the thing that you have in front of you and you're feeling like, oh, I just don't have the energy for this, move your body. Oftentimes when we're doing this work, we're sat at a desk, we've been sat at a desk for hours, we've been on Zoom, we're like, oh. And what happens when we sit down for any length of time is our metabolism slows considerably. When we start to get up and move around and change our body, change our posture, all sorts of things happen. Our blood gets pumped around the system, our lymph starts to move around as well. We get rid of the toxins, we get blood to the brain, we get oxygen to the brain, all sorts of things happen. We shift our state, and that can really help us with then refocusing. So if you're having problems focusing, do some jumping jacks and then get back on it. Or if you're feeling a bit bleh, one of my happiest thoughts is that most of my clients stick Taylor Swift on and shake it off for a few minutes. And a couple of weeks ago, I had the absolute pleasure of sticking Taylor Swift on loud at a conference and getting 60 doctors to jump around the room for about 3.5 minutes. It was such good fun. I wasn't sure they were going to, but they were really up for it. So shake off the energy of the last job you did in order to get into the right state of mind, physically and cognitively, to face the next job. Also, bear in mind something that we often overlook. We've been, and I speak as someone who's grown up in that generation of like, we are as good as men and our hormones won't affect us and all of that. Here's the thing, our hormones affect us, right? It doesn't matter what you say. I don't cycle naturally. I have a condition, so I'm on the pill back to back. So I don't cycle naturally. I still have a hormone cycle that goes within that. I know that because I can feel it, and I've checked in with myself regularly. Our hormone cycle can often influence what we have, what we're in the mood for. So and this happens post-menopause as well, by the way. I've worked with some ladies who are a bit older, have gone through that, and they're like, yeah, I still have that cycle of energy. So check in with yourself. What do I have the energy for today? And if we all know that we wake up some days and we're like, yes, I'm going for it, I'm going to have a fantastic day, and you plow through that to-do list and you get stuff done. Other days you're like, I just want to stay in bed with my favorite book. And actually, they're the days for inner reflection, for meditation, for visualizing our future, for thinking deeply about perhaps what we want to do and having some real reality checks. Other days, we're going to be like, I want to talk to people. I want to go networking. I want to connect with people. I want to have this wonderful time communicating and nurturing myself and other people. We always have. So just think about that, reflect on that. What do I have the energy for today? Because if we can kind of batch those things together, people say batch all your telephone calls together. Don't do that. If they're all different, a sales call and a complaints call take two totally separate types of energy. Speaking to your team and speaking to someone when you're doing a presentation or workshop, two totally different types of energy. So think, what do I need? What I need to do today? What's my energy like today? What do I feel like doing? And that sounds really self-indulgent when you've got a massive to-do list. Honestly, you will get way more done. So I'm aware that you're going to have loads and loads of questions, but if you have planned and put something in your diary and then you haven't done it, it might be that that's not the thing you have energy for today. It might be that you need to think about, do I actually even want to do that thing? Is that something I could delegate? Is it something I could pay someone else to do? Is it something I could do tomorrow when my energy might have shifted a little bit? If you're getting to something and it's taking you a lot of time, spend some time getting into the mindset, getting into the mood, have a listen to some music. What music is going to get you in the mood for that thing? What exercise? Maybe a meditation, maybe some yoga, maybe some kickboxing, right? Whatever you need to do to get you into that state of mind will really help you to focus on that thing. So manage your expectations. Don't try and do it all, and certainly don't try and do it all at once. Look after your energy. Look after your energy generally, and then look after your energy along the way as well, and really think about the things that you're doing. And when you do that, it will help you to manage other people's expectations and put some boundaries in place, and maybe even start to say that word that we consider quite bad sometimes, that we shouldn't use, which is no. So I've seen some people popping into the chat box. Jack or Jackie, I'm not sure, is going to be heading off. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. Going to do a B. I love that. Excellent. Enjoy. And I will finish there. It's a whistle stop tour. This is usually like I can do a full day workshop on this. So it's very much a condensed version, but hopefully it's given you some tips and ideas there. And I'm happy to open up to any questions.
Thank you so much, Helen. Ladies, we have two options for you with questions. If you're happy for your question to be recorded, pop it in the chat box now. We'll then end the recording, and then we will open up to any more questions that perhaps are a little bit more sensitive. But while you're just thinking about your questions, I have to say the music part for me really resonated. And actually, Jackie will know from past large meetings we've had, like for International Women's Day and things like that, over the past 11 years, I've normally played music, haven't I, Jackie? Either right after lunch for everyone to clear that time, or right at the beginning, and it really resonated with me, the music.
And the thing with you, Sue, is you put so much time and effort to pick the right music.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I think Lynn,
it's amazing.
At the awards night for the winners, music is such a huge thing. Yeah. So when someone's won an award, I thought that music goes with that person. I know there's few people, Veronica, Clara, Linda, they've been to awards, so music's a massive thing. For me, for working as well, I'm just letting you have some time for your questions, but I have certain music for design when I have to be tunnel vision, and I have certain music for other things, and then sometimes I have to be completely silent. But I actually design better with a certain kind of classical music, and it's just very faint in the background, but my design hat is worn and I can really concentrate. So thank you for sharing that, Helen. That is, I think that was brilliant. I've made so many notes down in front of me. I've got pencils being going bonkers. So let's open up to any questions for the recording. Oh, I think we've got a couple of people just leaving. So thank you for coming.
Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, everybody.
So we've got here advice when the B box is very full. If you've moved on to your B box, congratulations, this is amazing. And triage it in exactly the same way. So look at, are the things in your B box, have they got deadlines? And that should indicate to you the order in which you do them. If they are nice things that you want to do, then book them in your diary, get them in. You know, if it is the hairdressers, the massage or whatever, then get them into the diary. But look at them and go, okay, what's the order in which I want to do these? Are there some things in there that could be rewards for me? Because we deserve that. Are there things going to be nourishing for me? We can do that. But also, what do I have the energy for today? So the B box is a really great place to think about, what do I have the energy for today? Now, assessing your energy and what you have the energy for is a bit tricky, and it takes a bit of time to get used to. If you have a cycle, a natural menstrual cycle, which most women do, but not everyone, then you'll know whereabouts you are in the month and you'll know what you have energy for. So just after your period, you're going to be what I call warrioress. You're going to be like, get stuff done, because you've got more testosterone in your system. If you're just before it, however, you're going to be probably what I call in queen mode, where you're going to be making decisions, a bit more analytical, but it's also not a good time to be having team meetings and having nourishing, nurturing conversations, because we tend to be a bit off with our head. So that helps you think about queen. So if you know your cycle, it's more nuanced than that, but that's two stark examples. And then obviously when you have that period time, that tends to be the inner reflection time, the way where you want to be a bit quieter, read a book, do some study. So you can look at your cycle. If you're not sure, if you have inconsistent cycles, if you don't cycle naturally, if you're postmenopausal, then what you can do is to look at keep a note, like a diary. At the end of each day, what did I have the energy for today? And if you keep that as a tracking system, then you will find that there's a pattern. And the things that you're looking for, I felt nurturing. I felt I wanted to connect with people. I felt I had the energy to get stuff done. I wanted to just sit on my own today. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to read a book or meditate, that kind of thing. I was really chatty with people and I really wanted to reach out to people, that kind of thing. They're all very different. And if you track that, and then you can start to apply that to your B-box, but it takes a bit of time to kind of get to know yourself. So think about what do I have the energy for? The other thing to look at in your B-box is what's a quick win, because you get a massive dopamine hit every time you tick that something off that list. So if you've got a couple of quick wins, then that's a really great thing. Also, if you've got a really big task in your B-box, how can you break that down into smaller component parts and then prioritize those? Hopefully that's helpful. Went off on a slightly different tangent on the hormone tangent, which is one I quite like, so apologies for that.
I think that's important though. We are women and it affects us all in some way, doesn't it? So I'm just looking here. I've got a question actually for you as well, Helen. I'm just keeping an eye on the Q&A box. But you've talked about our cycles and things and energy. I want to ask about times of the day. Is there certain times of the day when we peak and we're down, or is it down to the individual? Have you got anything you could share on that?
Yes, I do. Yes, there are certain times of the day, and yes, it's individual. So that's a good thing to track and keep a record of yourself. However, I've got a really great resource. I just need to find it. Bear with me. This is a really good quiz to do. And again, it links into one of my lovely soapbox moments. Okay, I'm going to put this in the chat box. Bye, Maxine. Thank you so much. So this is a quiz that you can do, and it tells you your chronotype, and it links in with my two favorite things, which is sleep and also energy, and when you have the energy to do something. So there's 4 different types of chronotype. It's coded into our DNA. So if people tell you you have to get up early in the morning and you don't like getting up early in the morning, that's fine. You can absolutely tell them no. I have a real problem with business coaches and personal development that's like, get up and 5 o'clock in the morning and do. No, I am not that chronotype, and actually only 20 to 25% of the population are. So you're setting up 75% of the population to fail and to feel like a failure if they can't get up early and have a morning routine. Doesn't work when getting children to school. No, sorry about that. They're in a world of their own, aren't they? So this quiz not only tells you the best time to sleep, but the book, The Power of When, by Dr. Michael Bruce, it's phenomenal. It's a fantastic book. And he actually, in that book, and I think on his website, gives you like really good timetables for your day. So if you're a bear, which 50% of the population are, not a morning person, not a night person, just a regular daytime person, when is a good time to exercise? When is a good time to have sex? When is mornings, by the way? When is a good time to read? And so that is a really great. When is a good time to eat for best digestion, that kind of thing. So that is a really good quiz to get and to tap into some of his resources. And sleep lots. Yeah, you need 8 hours. Okay, that will really help your time and energy management. Get 8 hours of sleep.
Oh, thank you, Helen, for sharing that. I've just saved the link, so I can pop that out there as well later if you don't have a chance to save it. We've lost a few people there, so thank you, Linda. We say goodbye to everyone. Has anyone else got a question for Helen? I am going to just formally close, so don't disappear on us just straight away. So I'm just going to end the recording and then we'll open up to any more questions. Just bear with me. Thank you very much, Helen, for today's workshop. That is fantastic. Lots of information shared in such a great, interesting way as well. So thank you very much. And we'll see you all very soon, everybody. Thank you for watching our replay.